everybody, this is Hamma here from the Araxis Global Network and PlanetSide-Universe.com for an episode of AGN Instant Action. This time we're going to be talking about something that, for me, is extremely disappointing, and I was hoping that I would not have to make a video of this sort in the near term, but unfortunately circumstances deem that I actually need to make this video. For those of you that don't know, I actually started a thread not that long ago about this particular subject. I titled it Large Outfits and PlanetSide 2, but it actually ended up being a lot more deep than just that. It actually ended up being a discussion about a lot of the problems with the game that almost force you to have a large outfit. Not necessarily that large outfits are bad for the game, just that you almost have to have one now in order to compete. Personally, I run a fairly small outfit on the Waterson server. We usually put down about half a platoon on our operation nights, and, sometimes around 2 squads on non-ops nights. And we find that it's very difficult for us to do anything in particular. Now, there are some things that we can do really well. We can go out to the, the front lines, and we can start grabbing territory back from the enemy. But this is boring, because most of the time, this particular territory is completely undefended. There's nobody there. They don't bother to come and try and take it back. So you end up going through and hopping around the map and capturing all these little points everywhere, and you don't see any opposition, really. And so that is extremely boring. I mean, how long can you really do that and actually have fun? It's even very hard for large Zergs to defend against some of these particular onslaughts. There's really nothing that you can do. Ultimately, PlanetSide 2 rewards large numbers, and it really doesn't reward much more else than that. One of the other very large issues that I see, when it comes to the whole server more than, small outfits or anything like that, is that the enemy goes to a continent and they overpop the hell out of it. They capture that continent and then they leave and they say screw it, because why the hell should I stay here and bother to defend it? What you end up having is 3 continents with almost always 3 very large Zergs on each one, working to capture that entire continent with little to no resistance, because the enemy doesn't bother defending. Because really, there is no particular reason to defend a continent, or a base for that matter. Now, you do get bonus XP for defending. Don't get me wrong, there is something in there that is an incentive to defend, but a lot of people don't see that. They don't even know that exists. And so they just leave. And even still, that's not really enough incentive to defend a base. You really need something more than that, something more tangible. Now I'm going to talk about a lot of different things in this video, and I don't have solutions for most of them, or any of them for that matter. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is stuff that was discussed in the thread and brought up by a lot of other different people that are much smarter than I am. I'm just able to get the word out there a little bit better. I'm going to mention PlanetSide 1 quite a bit in this video, because I do think PlanetSide 1 did a lot of the things right that would probably fix some of the issues that we're seeing here in PlanetSide 2. Now, pre-release and during beta, I was one of the people who said most of all, this isn't PlanetSide 1, and it's not. It totally isn't. But there is a lot of stuff that we can learn from PlanetSide 1 that I don't think was learned when the game was being produced. So here are some examples. And I'd like to give some credit to RoboCPF and Malorn and quite a few of the people on the PSU forums for coming up with some really great ideas and talking them out. This thread was awesome. It's over 150 posts long now, and it was just a great brain dump of a lot of different issues that we see with PlanetSide 2. A great example of something that a small outfit could operate on in PlanetSide 1 was towers. Now, we have towers in PlanetSide 2, but they're often, there's quite a few of them, and they're nearly impossible to defend for a small team. And this actually goes for not just towers, but a lot of the buildings inside of the bases. They're nearly impossible to defend. Why? Well, it's pretty easy, to be quite honest. They're so open. I mean, you can shoot or spam or, anything you can think of, you can shoot it in a window of a building. Let's take a generator at a tech plant, for example. There's about 1 million windows in some of those generator buildings. If you're going to go in there and try and hold that, it's almost impossible, because the enemy is just going to spam the hell out of the windows. They're going to shoot their mag riders or lightnings or vanguards or prowlers or whatever into those windows, and they're going to do it constantly. And there's almost no way for you to be able to do anything in there, because you can't get a valid defense. You can't hold up in there. And, that's frustrating. If you're a small team, it's literally impossible for you to get in there and spend a lot of time in there, because you're going to get pushed out so quickly by the spam that's going to come from every direction, and even liberators can start shooting windows and taking people out inside. And that's just ridiculous. And the outposts and the towers are the same way. They're completely open to the outside. And I know, the reason they did that was to prevent, prolonged things from happening and, people from getting farmed or whatever. I think that's a silly reason. Being able to defend a large outpost or a tower or something from a much larger force was one of the most rewarding experiences that I had in PlanetSide 1. Being able to defend a tower for hours on end without the enemy being able to get in is something that just can't be matched in PlanetSide 2. I haven't really had that feeling since very early beta, and that's frustrating to me. This is a game that I want to spend years playing. But if I have to build an outfit that has 200 people in it in order to get that feeling, well, I'm not going to sacrifice the team that we have created in order to do that, and just start inviting whoever the hell, wants to participate. Another very big thing that you could do in PlanetSide 1 was deny resources to the enemy, much more than you can in PlanetSide 2. Now, this touches on resources as well, so let me start there. Resources are not tangible enough. They're too easy to get, and you almost never run into situations where the resources really affect what you're doing unless you're getting just totally owned on a continent. That is the only time that resources are really going to affect what you're doing. And you know what you're going to do then? You're going to get the hell off that continent, and you're going to go to one where you can actually get resources and participate in the way that you want to. Not really a good solution, because then that means that everybody's just going to leave. And, we're going to run into the situation that I mentioned earlier on, and that people are just going to say, screw it, and let the enemy overrun this, and then they'll come back after the enemy leaves, because then they're going to get all that juicy capture XP. Resources need to have a much larger use and a larger effect on the battlefield. If I deny the enemy aircraft resources, that should deny them the ability to roll aircraft for a while. And that is one of the things that in PlanetSide 1 you could do so well. Every base offered a benefit, which they've started adding to PlanetSide 2. But in PlanetSide 1, you could take a spec ops team behind enemy lines, and you could start hitting things like generators, and you could actually start taking out the enemy's ability to spawn tanks without actually capturing the base. Now, sanctuaries contributed a lot to that, because that meant you had to start bringing in stuff from the sanctuary, which was very difficult to do. Well, I won't say difficult, but it took a hell of a lot longer than it takes to redeploy or suicide to your warp gate and then start rolling out from there. Especially with the tech plants almost always right next to the warp gate, it becomes nearly impossible to be able to deny the enemy that resource, even if they put that mechanic in, because you're going to be right next door to the warp gate. But I do think that that is something that will add a lot more to this. The ability to deny enemy resources or vehicles or whatever else, in the long run is going to add a lot more place for smaller squads and smaller outfits to be able to contribute to the bigger fights without actually being there and getting rolled constantly over and over again. One thing you can't deny in PlanetSide 2 is the fact that resources, are totally useless for the most part, and vehicles rule all. If you roll in a ton of vehicles, you are going to capture a base, because your vehicles have effect on every single square inch of PlanetSide 2. There are very few places where you either can't get a vehicle, or you can't affect with a vehicle. Biolab is a good example of a place where you can't get in with a vehicle, and it's not easy for you to get, it's pretty much impossible to get anything in there, so it's pretty much a standard infantry fight the whole time up there. Everywhere else is almost completely affected by vehicles in some way, shape, or form. I've seen vehicles driven all the way up inside of tech plants and sitting up there and defending points. You can spam almost any area of any particular facility with a vehicle, because you can drive your damn vehicle almost right up inside of a lot of these. For me, that really is very disheartening. I want to be able to contribute to a fight without having to worry about getting spammed by some stupid vehicle sitting on the outside spamming some window or some random opening, and a point where I can't do anything about it because I'm inside. Now, I know that one of the biggest focuses of the PlanetSide 2 team coming on to the new year is going to be metagame, and I really need to just drive home the point that that is extremely important. If we don't get more of a metagame and more ability for more people to be able to contribute to fights without having to participate in this massive zerg that not everybody wants to take part in, then this game is going to die, unfortunately. It's only going to be large outfits playing it. It's going to come to the point, which has actually already happened on some servers, where large outfits recruit to the point where there are nobody left to really recruit. They're all being spam invited into these massive outfits that are then directing their own Zergs onto targets. Now, not every large outfit is a Zerg. Don't get me wrong, there are some really good ones that are large outfits out there, and they understand what needs to be done on the battlefield. By no means is every large outfit bad. I just want to drive home that damn point because I know somebody's going to rage at me because I said that large outfits are ruining PlanetSide 2, which is not what I said, and I have no intention of saying. So, let me just get that out of the way right now. Now, some of the things that they can do to solve this in the end, resources need a much larger role. And, I'm touching on some of the things Malloran said, who's one of the game designers who's actually going to be working on this. And, I encourage him. He's part of a large outfit, and I know that he plays with smaller squads and things like that. And so I know that he's kind of getting a little bit of both worlds. But I just want to make sure that whoever PlanetSide 2 or SOE has working on some of these things, that they have a better understanding of multiple angles of the problem, because it's multiple issues that are happening here. And if you're just playing in a large, massive outfit or a small outfit, you're not going to get the big picture. And personally, I play in a small outfit, so I'm probably not getting the total big picture. It is what it is, but I do believe that a lot of people agree with me that there are some major issues going on with the game. Next up, let's talk about territory capture. Territory capture needs to be slowed down significantly so that you can't just run around and capture all these outer territories without a force, without a few people. I shouldn't be able to ride an ATV into, some random outpost with one point and just sit there and capture it. It should be a requirement of at least maybe 4 to 5 or 6 people, depending on the size of the outpost, in order to capture it. That will prevent, the crazy whack-a-mole that goes on right now. Because one dude can just hop on his ATV and start rolling around the front lines, away from the Zerg, and start capturing stuff. And then smaller outfits like myself send, 2 squads out there to take this back, thinking that there might actually be a force there, and it ends up being one guy riding away on an ATV, which is stupid. Base defense needs to be way more rewarding than it is now. I don't know what the solution is for that. I do believe a lot of the bases should be redesigned internally to make it so that it's a little bit easier to defend them without having 1,000 vehicles or liberators or whatever spamming the area. XP wise, it should be more rewarding. Maybe there should be a bonus at the end, capture, just like there is, with capturing bases. Something that's more visible to people that are playing. It also needs to be a little bit more difficult to obtain vehicles. It is way too easy right now, and the issue with main tanks, obviously, and this has been debated ad nauseum throughout beta and pre-release, that tanks require only one person to operate, really, and that's stupid. But that's not going to get fixed, so we need to make it so that those vehicles are a little harder to obtain, and so that resources are a little more tangible. And this needs to be something that's global, so that you can't just go nab an entire continent and say, screw it, I don't need to even be here anymore, I'm going to go somewhere else and I'm going to Zerg. I do think that more continents are going to start to help this, because that's going to mean they're going to be able to put in a little bit more continental warfare. I'd love to see the return of sanctuaries someday. I know for some reason the dev team just hates that idea. I know it's a lot of unused space or whatever, but it adds so much more logistics to the game. One of the major tactics that larger and smaller outfits do is they slash suicide or redeploy to the warp gate, grab whatever, and then just get back out into the field. That was something that was a lot more difficult than PlanetSide 1, because you had to go all the way back to the sanctuary, and you needed logistics in order to get back out again. You couldn't just do it. And so I think that those would actually add quite a bit to the fight. Maybe confusing for new players, but that's a whole nother situation that I've done plenty of talking on, and I think that we need a lot more new player experience. But I digress. Anyway, I know I didn't touch on a whole lot of solutions in this video, but I wanted to make sure that voices are heard, that the dev team understands that there's something vital missing from PlanetSide 2 for long-term tactical play. It really feels to me like it is just a large Zerg from point to point to point to point, and really there's not a whole lot more to it than that. PlanetSide 2 is capable of so much more, and I do believe that they are going to add some of that, and I hope they really go all the way. And I don't care about, oh, well, this means new players won't know what to do. There's still room for that. The mission system is one of the things that could help with that. So I really want to make sure and drive the point home that there is a major, major problem with PlanetSide 2 long term. You really need to figure out how to make it so that you don't have to be a member of some massive outfit in order to contribute to the battlefield. If I want to go in with one squad and I want to deny the enemy some type of resource, I should be able to do that. I shouldn't be able to do it if I'm one dude. I shouldn't be able to go into a generator room and deny main battle tanks to an entire continent because it's just me and a couple of mines or whatever. You know, it needs to be something that there needs to be at least a squad of people involved in. You know, it needs to be something that requires some teamwork. A big part of that is redesigning some of these bases so that you can't spam the hell out of the inside doors with every vehicle, you know, imaginable. And, you know, another big piece of it is just making sure that not everything in the game rewards large numbers. And really right now that is what the game rewards, is massive numbers of people. And, you know, size always matters, as all the stuff says, and that is important. But I believe that you can have both. You can have both things, and you can still have an awesome, successful game. Anyway, I've talked about a lot of things in this video, and I'll probably talk about this some more coming up into the new year. But I want to wish everybody very happy holidays and New Year. PlanetSide Universe has had just an amazing year in terms of traffic. I've had an amazing year in terms of being able to meet a lot of awesome people, you know, at SOE Live, the developers, things like that. You know, so it's been just an amazing run, and I want it to continue for many, many years to come. And I think SOE needs to forget about this whole esports crap until they actually figure out how to make this game successful for the regular individual. We know esports is high on their list of things to do because they have mentioned it. Forget about that. Make this game successful for the people who are going to be playing it for years to come. Don't worry about some fad that's going to just come and go. There's a lot of big stuff going on in esports, but in the end, you know, it doesn't last forever. And PlanetSide is the type of game that could last for many, many, many years. And if they lose sight of that, we may as well just call it, because it's not going to be anything that we're going to play. You know, as long-term fans of the game, it's not going to be something we're going to enjoy. Anyway, I am Hamma from PlanetSide-Universe.com and the Araxis Global Network. I also encourage you to check out my outfit, the DragonWolves. You can check us out at www.dragonwolves.com. We run a smaller outfit, and we try and make a difference on the battlefields. And we discover a lot of things that I've talked about in this video, and you know, we're a great team. We've been together for 10 years. I encourage you to come and join us, you know, or at least apply and see if it's something that's for you. And in the meantime, as I said, I'm Hamma from the Araxis Global Network, PlanetSide-Universe.com. We'll catch you next time for another episode of AGN Instant Action. You guys have a good one.